Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a while since I've actually posted on here. Been going through a lot. I just wanted to just come on here and just talk for a little bit, like can we just talk, I know this is not usual at all, and this is something I may not even post again, at least not for a while, unless it's something you guys would like to see me post more of. I just thought, you know what, maybe I could just come on here and just kind of talk about life, talk about how things have been going lately, because things are crazy, and I honestly feel for so many of you people out there that are dealing with something, that are dealing with, loss, or that are dealing with struggles, especially financially. It's weird, there's so many things going on in the world now that it's like some of us don't know how to stay caught up with this. I will keep the edits very minimal here in this video, just because I just want to talk. I've never actually tried like live streaming or anything. I was thinking I might try that sometime, just to chat, see what you guys would think. If anyone would really even watch that anymore, it's going to be really hard for me to get much views if I go back into making videos and stuff, but I'll still do it because I enjoy it, but yeah. Life has been crazy. A few things I wanted to talk about, one thing, and I think this is a big one, especially for people in Gen Z, in my generation, just overthinking the future, overthinking basically everything coming up in your life, ever since 2020, things just have not been the same. Like, things have not been the same, man. It feels like there's been a sudden shift in the timeline, and all of a sudden everything's just kind of whack. Nothing feels right. A lot of people are uptight. A lot of people are tired. We're all really exhausted. We're not being paid enough. A lot of us at work, there's crazy inflation and stuff, and we're hoping that things get better soon. We don't know how to deal with these things, and coping with the reality of this world sometimes can be very overwhelming. And lately I've been kind of having a hard time with the idea that a lot of us feel like we need control over our lives. We need complete control over our lives, but we forget that one of the most beautiful things about life is the fact that we're not always the ones in control. Maybe like a year from now, 2 years from now, a decade from now, your future self will be looking at you, current you, and be thinking, wow, what was this guy thinking? You may even have a completely different, frame of mind as far as your politics or your religion or whatever it may be. You're gonna change over time, and it's very interesting to think about this, because right now we're in a state where things are so chaotic. I think a lot of us, we really just want a little bit of control in our lives, you know what I mean? But in doing so, in trying to seek that control that we really want, we're kind of losing sight of one of the most beautiful parts of life. And that's the fact that it is, to an extent, very random. And we don't know where it's going to take us. We don't know where we're going to be. We don't know what our next chapter is. And, that's very scary, especially with how things got shaken up after 2020, after things that happened in our life that made, maybe getting a house more unattainable, or, made it difficult to just survive, and a lot of us are just trying to make it. Now, I will say this, on the bright side, I do think that things have the potential to get better, because there are many times, especially in the market, where things like this have happened. Like, there was the crisis of 2008. Things changed. Things reverted back to normal. Things were kind of similar to how they are now. It was very difficult to get an apartment. It was very difficult to do certain things, and I really feel for people. I feel for so many other people, like my friends and, other people in my life that are, same generation as me. There are many people out there that are doing well. And this video, if you enjoy watching this video and you get something out of it, that is good. But I mainly want to talk to the people that are struggling lately. I hear you guys. I keep seeing all these videos on the internet about how there's so much going on in life. There's just so much, craziness and unpredictability that we never seem to have earlier. And, sometimes a part of me thinks like, okay, what if this is just the fact that we're having a hard time growing up? What if this is part of the fact that, like, growing up, we kind of expected our lives to go a certain way, to hit a certain trajectory. And now that our lives are not hitting that trajectory that we thought we would be able to hit, everything is so thrown off. We feel like we're on edge all the time. We don't have our ideals being met. And there was this big shakeup in our lives, especially in 2020, which I keep going back to because that's very, very important to this kind of like topic of discussion here. It's not good for people that have generalized anxiety and just general worry about the future, because some of us may worry, hey, there's so much I could do. I could work so much. I could do this and that. And AI might replace my job, or, you know, a whole plethora of things could happen. Now, I know I made a video earlier on about AI and how it's not something to fear if you're an artist. Now that, I still stand by that, okay? Don't get me wrong here. I stand by that within a certain set of circumstances. That basically being that as an artist, you don't really have to fear AI if you're independent. If you're able to make your art on your own, make your revenue on your own, employ your own voice actors, or, you know, get your own art commissioned by your own hands, you don't really have to worry about AI replacing you, because at that point, AI only replaces you if you want it to. You know what I mean? AI may be a competition, but when you really think about it, art has always been a competition, no matter how many people have been doing it, okay? Competing with another person would be just like competing with an AI, as long as you're independent in these things. Now, if you're talking about someone who's hired by a company, you know, someone who is under company rule or studio rule, like making a film, or, you know, that kind of stuff, that is what is something to worry about, because the company, they just want to maximize their profit. They're going to replace people, and that's scary. There's things like that, like, okay, I'm going to work super hard, I'm going to get replaced. I'm going to work super hard, there's going to be another pandemic, you know, and there's just a lot of hopelessness and there's fear. And I just wanted to let you guys know that you're not alone on that. I understand what it feels like to go through things like that. I have been caught up in a massive whirlwind of, you know, just a lot of things going on in my life, a lot of struggle, so I haven't really been uploading because of that. And you know, I took down my Instagram pages. I've been trying to avoid social media because I just, you know, things have just been difficult. Now, have I dabbled a little bit a few times, going back into social media, going back into the addiction? Yes. And that's not a good thing, because I was trying to stay off of it, but, you know, it happened a few days here and there. But overall, I've been staying off, and I've been feeling much better after kind of getting that stuff out of my head, getting that junk out of my head. After I stopped focusing so much on the likes, what people think about me, you know, what's up with this, keeping up with the Joneses, you know? Like, I lived a part of my life with the whole keeping up with the Joneses kind of mentality, you know? And if you guys aren't familiar with that term, it's basically, you know, like, hey, the Joneses, they got a new car. They got all this nice stuff. I want that, and I want to compete with them, and I want to be better than them. So you're keeping up with the Joneses, you know? And I lived a lot of my life feeling that way. Like, I had to just compete with people, and I always had to look better. And, you know, there was a part of me inside that was just feeling so empty about that. And I know a lot of people in my life that are still caught up in this whole keeping up with the Joneses and just trying to prove themselves, because they're worried about, you know, maybe they're not going to be loved if they don't look a certain way. And I can definitely resonate with that, and I've struggled with that many times in my life. Maybe people who are watching this right now are struggling with that, and I really feel for you there. But one thing you need to realize is that whether it be a new car, whether it be like, you know, something nice in your house, or whatever it is, if you're showing off, you know what I mean? Like, I've got these shoes here, I've got some Jordans, I like them, you know what I mean? But I don't really care to wear them all the time. I just think they're comfortable for my feet. And plus, I wasn't even the one that bought them anyway, you know what I mean? So I'm not trying to look cool, I'm not trying to say that I bought them. My mom bought them for me. Super nice of her, and I love that. But the point I have to make about this is that it doesn't matter how beautiful or pretty things are that you have, because at the end of the day, most people are just going to give their quick 5-second reaction to it, and then they're just going to move on. And the thing about life is so many of us are trying to look good in front of other people, trying to pretend to be happy, trying to look happier than we actually are, when in reality, deep down, we aren't, and we feel like we're not measuring up. But something that can be seen as comforting, at least in my eyes. Some people may fear this, but something that is comforting is the fact that at the end of the day, nothing you do, nothing anyone does is going to be remembered. 300 years from now, almost everything going on right now will not matter at all. And I think there's a sense of comfort in that, knowing that you don't always have to worry about, looking cool, looking rich, looking, all these things. You don't have to worry about these crazy worldly things, because it's not going to be like this forever. There will be a release. All of us will have our time to rest. Now, with that in mind, that's part of why you shouldn't care about these things. You shouldn't care about these materialistic things. You shouldn't care about keeping up with the Joneses, because you're going to be gone. Would you rather have looked back at your life as something you enjoyed, or something you were busy just trying to compete with other people? See, you don't want that. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much money you're making. It doesn't matter how well off you are. What matters is how you feel about yourself and how you help others. Because at the end of the day, everything's going to be gone. And it's about what you're going to do with what you have right now. Now, I just wanted to come on here and I wanted to talk because, again, like I said, I understand how you guys are feeling. A lot of you guys that are feeling lost, and things are so chaotic nowadays. Lately, I've been dealing with a lot of things going wrong in my life, and troubles that I may not fully want to open up about right now, just to strangers on the internet. But I will say that many things have been kind of crumbling in front of me, and it can sometimes feel like there's nowhere to turn. There's a lot of struggle, and there's a lot of us who have a hard time focusing, especially those of us with things like ADHD, and it can be hard to get our points across. Sometimes even just talking to the camera here, I can struggle to fully get things across because I deal with ADHD, and it can be really hard to figure things out in that sense, especially in life, because a lot of us are very good at certain things. We may not know what those things are, and we may not know what the direction is that we want to take in our life. We may be good at multiple things, but we can't decide one thing to do for a career, so it's really difficult for us to get on our feet because we're lost and we're overthinking the ideas we have about where we want to go in our lives. And that's something I've been dealing with lately is, there's a lot of things that I like to do. There's a lot of things I enjoy. Things that could be very useful in society and all of that. But I don't know for sure what I want to do exactly. And sometimes that eats me alive because I'm an overthinker, And a lot of us shouldn't be overthinking this much. A lot of us are like literally 18 years old overthinking this stuff. And it makes no sense. But there's a new study that came out recently that talks about how Gen Z is having a lot more people, even in their 20s, that are having I think what you would call it, like a quarter life crisis, it's crazy. A lot of us are thinking the same way. A lot of us are really struggling. And, we kind of live in a world now where 9 out of 10 people are struggling, and there's one person that's not struggling. But the other 9 people that are struggling are trying so hard to pretend to be that person that's not struggling. There's a lot of us dealing with stuff. But at the end of the day, I think what really matters is what we can take out of this, because none of us can change what's going on. None of us can change what's going on in the world with the economy, all that stuff. All we can do is really just all we can do is react to it in our own way and go about things in our own way, a way that, we can actually progress and find a sense of happiness within our own hearts. I truly do believe now that if you want peace, you can't look around at the world to get it anymore. Not anymore. You got to look inside. Your peace has to come from inside. It cannot come from external forces, because if it does, there's proof, repeated proof throughout history, throughout everything, that, hey, the world is not something to rely on for your peace. Okay, it will fail you. Okay, it will fail you 100% of the time, tenfold. Okay, I just wanted to let you guys know you're not alone in these struggles, and there are so many of us out here that are feeling the same way. And if you need someone to talk to, please reach out to someone. You know, things are going to be hard. They're probably going to get worse for a little while. We don't know. They may get better. They may be worse. We don't know. But I just thought it would be good to jump on here and talk. You know, just tree bench. Okay, but it would be good just to talk to you guys, because, you know, a lot of content creators and stuff like that I've been seeing on YouTube have been doing this kind of thing, where they're just taking a minute to talk. You know, some of them are just going outside, like me, you know, just out in nature and just kind of explaining thoughts, because this is something that a lot of people need. And some people actually feel heard when they see this kind of content. I know it's helped me before, just like these long videos of people just talking to their camera about life and how things have been happening. And I think it would be good if I posted something like this as well. I will, of course, jump right back into the fun, you know, content, you know, the commentary and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I just want to let you guys know that if you need someone to talk to, there are plenty of people out there. There are plenty of people out there who would love to hear from you, but you just don't know it yet, you know? And I've experienced that in my life before too, where you feel like you can't turn to anyone because, you know, there's a part of you, there's maybe a part of you in your mind or whatever that feels like you have done too much wrong, you know? There's too many mistakes you've made, or you're an annoyance to other people if you just open up. But believe me, people would love to be quote unquote bothered by you than to hear that something worse happened to you, than to hear that they can't even talk to you ever again. And that's something that I never really thought about. And sometimes even me, myself, I can struggle with things, and I may not believe that these people are going to care what I have to say. But 9 times out of 10, that can be proven wrong. And you can actually figure out for yourself that, hey, people do care about me. I am loved. This is a really hard time. We're all in this together, and we need to stop poking holes at each other, okay? There's a lot of vitriol. There's a lot of just hate going around, and I think that it can come from a source of pain. A lot of us are hurting, so we just make everyone else hurt, and it becomes a repeated cycle of hate. And again, that's another reason why I tried to take a break from social media, because it felt like I was worrying too much. It felt like I was worrying too much about what other people thought. I was worrying too much about, you know, what people thought of my film, what people thought of every little thing that I posted, because I want to be good, and I keep judging myself. I could make something amazing. I could make something freaking amazing, okay? And I would still hate it. My brain would still find a way to freaking hate it, okay? And I'd have other people saying, hey, we really like this. But I would have the hardest time being able to accept the fact that I made something good, that I entertained people, that I helped people, you know? And it's just, it can be hard not to judge yourself sometimes. I know there are many of you out here who have probably dealt with the same thing, where you feel you want to do something good. You want to do something that's impactful, and you want to do something that, hell, is like very entertaining or puts a smile on people's face. And you try so hard about it. You think so hard about it to the point where you feel like you can't think anymore at all. You're thinking so hard that you're not thinking. And then you start to think wrong, and everything starts to collapse. And it's like there's this battle in your head. There are a lot of people out there who like to use, you know, and this goes for everyone out there who has ADHD, okay? This goes for you guys. There are a lot of people out there who like to use ADHD as this like quirky trait, like, oh my gosh, I have ADHD. So I just like, my brain's all over the place. I can't help it. There's a lot of people that do that. But what I have to say is, it's not a quirk. It's not a joke. It's not something to laugh about. People that actually have it severe, which I'm pretty sure I do. People that have it very intense, it can be crippling sometimes. It can be really hard to focus, to function the right way. And you wonder why other people are able to process things way better than you are sometimes. And, I just wanted to say that it can really feel like your brain is tied up in knots. It's just constant pain, sometimes when you're overthinking just the slightest things, and sometimes that can be mixed in with a solid dose of OCD. And then all of a sudden, you've got some difficulty, okay? You've got a little bit of a battlefield going on in that head, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of us that are like, oh yeah, I can take meds for my ADHD. It'll help me focus and stuff like that. But then it'll take away me. It'll take away my personality. It'll take away the essence of what makes me, me. And it can be really hard to deal with the fact that you don't feel like yourself anymore. You feel like these meds are just altering your personality. So then you go off the meds, and all of a sudden things sometimes can get a little worse after you go cold turkey off of ADHD meds, and it's difficult. It's something that I've struggled with many times, where there's certain things you're really good at, and other people will say, hey, you're brilliant at this. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's just the puzzle pieces don't really line up, and it can be hard to make things fit. Sometimes with ADHD, it feels like you're fitting a square peg into a circle hole, and it just doesn't work. And you have to keep finding a way to change that square peg into a circle. Wow, what a beautiful analogy. Oh my gosh, amazing, guys, so beautiful. This is my first time making a video like this, by the way. Holy shit, I'm not great at this. You guys might be able to tell. You might be able to sense the ADHD through the screen, because I've been going all over the place with this talk. You know what I mean? I'm talking all over the place, back and forth about random shit, but I'm trying to get a certain point across that I want you guys to know you're not alone when you're dealing with shit. I understand it. I want to get back into making more videos for you guys soon. I'm just kind of still dealing with a lot at the moment. I do still have that project coming up, the animation project, the cartoon, The Cursed Mountain Captive. Oh yeah. I've been working on that thing for a long time, and it's one of the things that brings me a sense of joy. Sometimes that's what you need in your life, is that you need a sense of joy. You need something that's going to bring you back to a baseline of just feeling peace. No matter how much chaos is going on, no matter how much you hate your job, no matter how much people maybe, getting in the way of things or tearing you down, negative people, or, anything could be happening. Anything could be happening that makes you feel worse. And I just want to let you know that you're not alone, because I have been dealing with so many things, and there's a lot going on in this time. And hey guys, so it is the next day. It's very windy out here, so I'm sorry if you can't fully hear my voice. But I wanted to, again, come back on here and just kind of keep this going a little bit longer. One thing to think about is the fact that a lot of people, especially Gen Z, my generation, we feel like we're set behind in comparison to the generation ahead of us. And we essentially are. There's a lot of things going on to the point where it feels like we can't get the same things with our money. Our buying power has decreased a lot, and it's really hard to understand how you could possibly even get a mortgage for a house when you're sometimes people even making $70,000 a year. That's pretty solid money. Some of those people are still kind of struggling, but there's a whole thing too with the lifestyle creep, the whole thing where the more money you make, the more you're going to be spending money. So therefore, you're probably by nature just going to be more poor because you're just blowing money on random things. And, you're like, oh, I have more money, so I can do this. And then you find yourself poor nonetheless because you're just not managing your money the right way. That's, a whole nother subject about the lifestyle creep. But there are some people out here that are trying so hard. You're working so hard all the time, only to be told that you're too lazy because you can't afford a house or because you can't afford, a car or whatever it may be, and getting a car, there's different ways to go about that. I think that's still something that is very possible if you're smart about, used cars and, you don't want to be in debt. Look at a used car, find something that's a little older, not like super new, but also not super old. And, you can find some good stuff, Honda or Toyota, good stuff. But yeah, just generally speaking, with everything going on, do any of you guys have a hard time knowing exactly what your purpose is going to be? Because some people here will feel more purposeless if they feel like the work that they're doing isn't contributing to much. If they feel like the stuff they're doing all the time isn't really showing much fruits for the labor. The juice may not feel like it's always worth the squeeze, and I really feel for people that are dealing with that. What is your purpose? What is the thing that makes you tick? That's a question that a lot of people in my generation are struggling with. And a lot of us may even have really good directions. We may have really good options for like where we want to go in life and what we want to do. But because there are so many options, or because of certain circumstances, we may feel a bit held back from actually going for those things immediately. So it can be kind of hard to just jump into something and say, hey, this is what I'm doing now. Lately, I've also been surrounded a lot with people who can't take criticism, people who dish out criticism towards me, but the second I even say something slightly criticizing them, which usually is always in good faith, I'm always trying to say, hey, maybe this or that could be done better. Like, as a friend, I want to be there for people. I want to help them out. If they're doing something wrong, I'm going to say it. But we live in a society nowadays where a lot of people don't really want to take responsibility for their mistakes, and they don't want to ever admit fault. Meanwhile, they'll be telling other people to do that exact thing. None of us are perfect, okay? But what I'm just trying to say is, are you going to be the type of person that does stupid things and also takes other people down a peg just because they do stupid things, the same stuff that you're pretty much doing as well? Makes no sense. I don't understand that mentality of like, hey, I'm going to take time out of my day to think about how I can get after this person, how I can really worry so much about this other person and how they're doing and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to keep criticizing them, but the second they say something to me, I'm going to be, nope, man, the wind is crazy out here. Weather feels really nice, but the wind is insane. But yeah, you guys get the point. I'm sure there are many of you who have been around people like this. You'll have people just constantly making comments, and then the second they hear the slightest comment, even if it's like constructive criticism, they just go insane. They go haywire. They go crazy over it. And these people, I'm telling you, these are narcissistic people. Gotta be careful with these people. I've been surrounded by people like this quite a bit recently, and I've had to kind of cut them out. And it's just not, it's not something that I like to do. I don't enjoy it. If anything, I hope those people do well. I wish them luck, and I honestly hope that over time they can learn how to improve things so that they can actually attract more friends and actually, kind of just get things rolling in a good direction. Because when you're constantly taking people down a peg, when the world already has enough people that are dealing with enough, kind of stressed or miserable. And, another thing that brings me to is comment sections. Okay? Comment sections on YouTube, Twitter, X, on all these places. you're going to find people that are arguing the dumbest things, like the most stupid things, to the point where you almost wonder if these people have mental illness, because they just keep going around just saying stuff. And sometimes it's like, yo, you're just trying to be contrarian. You know what I mean? So that's why I've kind of cut out like a lot of social media in my life. And, YouTube, obviously, there's fights that can break out in comment sections. There's all that kind of stuff. But with YouTube, it's very easy to just shut that off, just ignore it. You know what I mean? And I feel like, sites like Instagram are a lot more focused on comparison with other people, whereas YouTube is more so focused on the entertainment side of things, and like, how can I entertain my audience? How can I build an audience and make something cool out of it? That's what I feel like YouTube is more useful for, whereas Instagram is like, okay, let's see who is happiest. Let's see who can pretend to be the happiest. It's just this whole repeated cycle of just, and it exhausts you. I found myself over time feeling so much more exhausted and just miserable after using Instagram for so long, you know what I mean? And also, those apps, okay, you got this bite-sized content rotting your brain. I love myself some good brain rot, but like, too much of it, you start to realize, oh crud, I'm not even living for today. I'm not even living for like what I should be living for. And oftentimes it feels like we don't really live in the present, but we live in the past. Like the days that you look back on that you found to be the good old days, the fond times, those days, you didn't even realize you were in them until they were gone. And while you were in them, you may not have even felt like it would even ever be remotely close to the good old days. But it just turned out to be that way, And it's just, it shows that a lot of us don't really live in the moment. And that can be part of what makes us struggle, because we're constantly focused on things that are outside of our control. And, this is what I said earlier in the video. We want control in our lives when it's just not there for us. God doesn't give us control in our lives. That's not, like, we have a level of control. We have autonomy. But there's such a randomness to life. There's such a randomness to this universe. You don't know what's coming next. So, that's something I'm working on, is really just trying to stay present, no matter where I am in life, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm going through, just trying to focus on the things that I can control, and trying to just, let the rest kind of, let the rest of the burden be passed on to the universe, to God, however I can make it through, the next year or whatever, without thinking too hard. And that's a really hard one for us, because there's a lot of people out here that are just having existential dread, because we just want things to be better. We just want, to be able to buy more stuff. I mean, like, even some wealthy people that I know, they think it's stupid that they're spending more money on things. Even though they can do it every day if they want to, they just think it's stupid. They don't think they should have to do it. So this isn't always just a poor person thing, or a middle class or lower middle class type of thing. There's also wealthy people that are feeling the pain, and it's all around, just kind of, things are different now. Everything feels weird. And, sometimes you might wonder, like, what if there's a time that we've kind of grown out of this feeling? What if there's a time, maybe in our 30s, heck, maybe even our 40s, that we've grown out of this feeling, this sense of everything feels different, everything low-key feels like a Black Mirror episode? Because, I mean, hey, we're living through some historical events lately. No matter what side you're on politically or whatever, I'm not going to get into that. Almost no one can deny it. Some of the things we've been through are actually historical things. These are things people are going to be talking to, future classes about in school. And it's like, future generations might be learning about the things we're going through now. But it depends, because, these days, everyone's attention span is so small, people forget about things within a week. So, I mean, who knows? So many people are so brain rotted, I doubt there's many people keeping track of this. I mean that kind of jokingly, partially. But, I've just got to say, keep yourself safe. Stay away from toxic people. Stay away from people that will exploit you, that will use you for whatever they want, and then just kind of disregard you whenever, you've done what they want you to do. Be careful of people you're hanging out with. Find some good people to hang with. And always just keep in mind that it really does not matter what other people think of you. I think that's a big one for us too, is that a lot of us in Gen Z probably worry a lot about the thoughts of other people because, as we're struggling to get the same wages as our parents did before us, it can be harder to reach the standards of our parents to the point where we can feel like we're slipping behind and we look worse to our peers and all this stuff. And you got all these people, like most people right out of the gate that are like, quickly getting a nice car or whatever, they're going broke for this stuff, and I've seen people with really nice cars going to food banks, okay? They cannot afford it. You know what I mean? But they're feeling pressured by society to look constantly like they are staying ahead of the curve, like they're ahead of everyone. And it goes back to this whole keeping up with the Joneses thing. And, all of these thoughts, all at once. A lot of people have these thoughts just rushing through their mind. A lot of people are really thinking about this. There's something wrong. A lot of people aren't talking about it, but we're thinking about it every day. A lot of us are thinking about it. And a lot of us may not realize how many other people are actually on the same page with this. Some people aren't willing, because so many people are closed-minded nowadays, so many people aren't willing to reach out the olive branch and just, say, hey, what do you think about this? Just, see what their neighbors think and, have concern for the thoughts of their friends or, other people. But yeah, a lot of us are on the same page with things and we just have different ways of trying to deal with things. Like I may think that something you do to try to deal with something is like stupid. But you may think the same way about something I do to try to deal with things. That's just how it is. That's human nature. We just need to quit being at each other's throats so much. And the only way we can do that is if we're a little more vocal about these things. Because we're all struggling. And if we keep that in, we're all just going to be at each other's throats. We're going to be basically killing each other. And it's like, when you think about it, in our society, the elites, those people, that's what they would want from us. They would want us to be, divided. They'd want us to be at each other's throats, constantly going at it. Because, it seems like we're kind of to a point now where we're always too busy to know what else is going on. And then when we realize that things are worse for us and we don't understand why, we get confused, we get scared, we get angry, and everybody becomes at each other's throats. And there's ways to solve this. Like, there's a lot of us that are just staying inside, couch potatoes, just, we're doing nothing. Okay? We need to spend more time with people. And as far as that goes, that's a do as I say, don't do as I do. Because I struggle sometimes with talking to people. I'm an introvert. With my girlfriend, I can talk with her like all day long, sure, but I do also have my times where I'm like, hey, I need some time just to relax to myself, you know what I mean? So I struggle with socializing with people, but I try to get a little bit of a dose in there on the daily if I can. But, and that's way easier said than done, but it's doable. We can do it. We can figure things out, and we can actually get to this point of understanding where we can see where each other are at, and we can kind of just try to form things in a way, like, make communities, form things in a way where we're able to just go forward without all this hate. The internet, a really useful thing, pretty evil thing sometimes too, but it can be used for really great things. There's a lot of people, a lot of communities on the internet and stuff like that, whether it be like super nerdy or, something serious. There are people that are like you, that are like-minded. They understand you more. And it's awesome because now we get to have connectivity to those people all the time. I can talk with someone who has the same interests as me that lives in India. In fact, I do it a lot because one of the people I know that's working on my film, I'll have to reach out to him again because it's been a while. I went off Instagram and I forgot to tell him that I was going off Instagram, but I'll have to talk to him again. He's awesome. He's cool. I mean, at least from what I know, obviously, he's a cool guy. And you know, the internet is really useful for things like that. I think we need to try to remember that a lot of the things that we see online are very fake. Very fake. I mean, have you heard about the people talking about how a lot of users on the internet are probably just AI? Probably just bots. That person you're arguing with on Instagram is probably a bot. There's no point. Don't keep doing that, okay? It's stupid. But yeah, honestly, I think that there are certain things that we as a generation are kind of overcomplicating as well because we're worried, you know, so we're going to overthink things. And then that might make things worse for us than they really are. You know, it's something that we can't really just get over just like that. You know, it's something that we have to apply ourselves every day to make it. You know what I mean? Oh, we got skateboarders going by. But yeah, there's always something to do each day that will give you some sense of purpose. You know, I saw this video talking about how a lot of people lose their sense of wonder. They lose their sense of what they want to do outside of work or, you know, outside of things they have to do to stay alive. They lose that sense because they feel exhausted, they feel drained. But like, I would honestly invite you guys, if you can, make some room for that wonder. Make some room for maybe that inner child of yours that needs the attention you didn't give it. Make some room for, you know, that dreamer inside of you that wants to do cool things. Because whether or not you make that a career or you make that into something that you do for a living, it's always worth doing. It's always worth doing. You know, a lot of people try to look at success as, hey, if I'm making money doing the thing I like, that's good. And sure, yes, that's a form of success. But I would also say another form of success is enjoying something that you do, whether or not you're making money from it, whether or not you're, you know, becoming famous or something like that for what you do. As long as it's something you enjoy. Now, obviously, there are life responsibilities. There are things you have to do to keep yourself going, you know. I mean, like, hey, like I've had, you know, for example, I've had car struggles a lot of those, okay? I could make an entire video about that, like a 2-hour video. So the thing is, when it comes to that, I've got struggles in that sense that have, you know, kind of gotten in the way of like sometimes my ability to kind of just keep myself going sometimes, and it's frustrating. Those are the hurdles that are difficult to get over. But if you're able to make sure that you're meeting your needs, you don't always have to be making money off of something, especially because if you introduce the money situation to something you're doing that you enjoy, all of a sudden it becomes a chore, it becomes a job. You're doing it to catch some coin. You're doing it to get some money and not for the main reason that you started doing it in the first place. Now, there are a lot of people, you know, especially like YouTubers and stuff like that, they start out, they're so passionate, but you notice later on that their content seems like it's just a heap of homework for them. You know, one example I could think of, this guy really inspired me. I really enjoyed his stuff. I was like a huge fan of filmmaking and stuff like that. Was Chris Stuckman. Oh my gosh. I watched this guy for years. I watched him ever since I was like 13, 14 years old. I'm like 21 now. I've been watching him for a while. And his content, I was like, wow, this is awesome. It's just fun, you know? You just talking about movies, going in his comment section, talking about movies with other people that are interested in the same thing, just the art form of filmmaking. And it was just really cool. And I always had like a soft spot for the guy kind of like in my mind. But over time, it seemed like he just started to fall off. He started to change the way he made his content to the point where it seems like he really only does it for a paycheck. And hey, go get the bag, okay? Go get the bag. But the spark doesn't feel like it's there anymore. And his views have gone way down. They've gone off a cliff ever since he changed a few things about his channel, which, hey, do whatever you want with your channel. Like, you know, he did this whole thing where he's like, I'm only going to review stuff that I like, which is cool. You know, that's cool. But he, you know, got himself into that whole situation with the Madam Web movie, which, that lost him a lot of support because he was like, you know, tiptoeing around the fact that that movie was terrible. And he was just trying to blame the studio for it when he doesn't even know whose fault it really was. You know, all this stuff, yada, yada. That's a whole situation for later. But the point I'm trying to make is over time, it looked like his content grew stale, and it looked like he got tired of what he was doing, and it just felt like, hey, I'm making a paycheck, you know, people are going to watch this, I'll be good. That's what it started to feel like over time, and there's a reason why people started jumping ship, because people know, okay? If you start YouTube, right? If you start YouTube, if you start, you know, Instagram or whatever, any type of influencer, Twitch, people will notice when you have fallen off or when you feel burnt out, you know, whether it be like emotionally or you're just struggling to keep making videos. People will notice that. That's why sometimes you have to take breaks. If I didn't take breaks, I would really struggle with videos. And I know that taking a break on YouTube can sometimes really lead to, like, you know, your views going down like a lot. And I think I'm kind of experiencing that on my channel. I still think it's worth it. It's worth getting a break. You know what I mean? Because it's not the end of the world if your views go down to zero or if something doesn't work out. What matters is that you're doing it on your A game, okay? And people will appreciate that, okay? There may be ways to handle it with more tact, with more discretion, when you're taking breaks from creating content. If you're a content creator and, you know, there's certain, you know, maybe a middle ground, you take a break for a little bit, then upload again and just kind of go back and forth. Whatever you want to do, just do not let yourself burn out. I've been experiencing a lot of burnout a lot lately too, and it's soul crushing. You just start to feel like you're just drifting on this giant ball in the middle of space with no purpose because you burnt yourself out. You're working so much. I literally had, for my project, my film project, I was working on that every single day for more than a year. Every single day, 3 hours minimum. There were many days where I did 5 to 10 hours, but I did a minimum of 3 hours a day of animating, drawing, you know, reaching out to my voice actors, seeing if they have their lines in yet, you know, just all that stuff. And voice actors, by the way, they are great. They are awesome. And I cannot wait to show you the project. I mean, it's been kind of delayed because I had to take a break. I didn't want to ruin something that I think is pretty good. Now, I just wanted to say that when you burn yourself out so much, to the point where it feels like you're not able to just move on, you feel crushed, you feel distraught, and you feel like there's just no purpose in getting up in the morning. So yes, do what you have to do. Do the things you need to do, but also with the things that you want to do, with the things that your soul feels full with. Whether it be your career or not, please do not burn yourself out. Don't do it. Don't get to that point. And you can feel it coming on sometimes once you're getting close to that point. And once you feel that, you need to jump ship and take a break for a little bit. Because this world was designed for us to be able to take breaks sometimes. Now, sometimes corporate people, depending on your job, whatever it is, may not feel the same way. Okay, but the way that this world is constructed, it's so beautiful if we're actually able to go out and take our breaks and just relax sometimes. You know, and this is something that we really need. And I think it's something that a lot of us have been lacking because a lot of us are just tired. We just want a break. A lot of us have already hit that burnout point and we're just struggling, you know? I hit the burnout point and I was stuck in it for months, like a really long time. And I'm just now kind of starting to come out of it, but I'm still sort of in it. And I cannot tell you how complacent it made me feel in life. It made me feel like I didn't keep going further. But there is still that part of me that actually wants to go further, that wants to just keep going. I can be dragged through the mud and I just keep getting up. I've gone through so much and I've made it this far. I can't just be here for no reason. You know what I mean? I have to keep trying, because if I don't keep trying, there are people that look up to me. There are people that, that want to see me get far, that I'd be letting down. There are also people in the future who I'd probably be letting down. And I have to remember that. It's not easy to remember. It's really hard to remember, and anything could happen if I struggle too much to remember that. But I have to remember that there are other people that probably need me here. And I need to keep working. I need to keep getting through this stuff. And this has been a real learning experience, honestly. It's been a lot. Been dealing with a lot. But I know that if I keep trying, things can change over time. And, just real quick, I wanted to say I'm so sorry if some of the audio is very iffy in this video. It's annoying. We've had crazy winds out here going on, so it's just kind of messing with my audio. Stupid me for not, coming out here with a lav mic or something. But, I kind of found a better area away from the wind here, so it should be better, hopefully. We'll see. But, one big thing too is that I think a lot of us need to really normalize helping each other out. And what I mean by that is we live in a world now where so many people are just way too concerned with themselves, what they can get out of people, and like how they can better their own interest rather than helping people. And I'm not coming on here to say, hey, we need to completely change society. We need to, yada yada, I hate the way that things are, wah wah wah, boo-hoo me because I'm not doing the best right now. That means everyone else has to, bend to what I want. I'm not doing that, because there are a lot of people online now that are basically saying like, hey, we need to uproot society and completely change it and alter it, all because I'm having a bad time. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to lean on people more in these hard times. As things get difficult, there's an ebb and flow to life, and things are just going to get hard sometimes. And sometimes what you really need is to be able to lean on someone. You need someone to help you through certain times. Sometimes it's going to be really hard to find that person. Some people may not have the relationships they need to be able to rely on people for certain things, for certain, needs that need to be met, or, just help getting on their feet when they're in a hard spot. I've been lucky enough to have people in my life who have helped me through hard times. They've helped me to get on my feet. I've gone through some really tough times. I've lost a lot, and I had people in my life who really showed me the purpose and the value of having good connections, because really one of the biggest keys to a really good life is your connections, the connections you have with people, because it's not all about you. It's not all about what you're going to get out of them, but you can also be good to these people in return for the things that they do for you, and you can find ways to grow and learn with these people, and a lot of people, lately, I've been seeing all the statistics and stuff like that about how a lot of people in Gen Z, are lonely. And this is one of, the world's loneliest generations in history. And there's a lot of reason for that, There's the obvious ones, there's the social media, there's yada yada, all that kind of stuff. But I feel like some of it can also come from, social things. Some people may be worried about being judged for certain things that really are artificial and just, superficial, don't even really matter that much. So people are going to be worried to reach out for help when they need it because they don't want to be looked down upon or anything like that. And, this goes for everyone. There's a lot of talk of a male loneliness epidemic, but this goes for everyone, male or female. I think the entire generation is getting their own dose of, difficulty. And I just wanted to say before I close out this video, though, that I'm not here to say that, oh my gosh, boo-hoo, everything is falling apart, the sky is falling, the world sucks, we should all give up, depression, doom spending, doom scrolling, all that stuff. I'm not here to say that. What I'm trying to say is that there is hope somewhere. And we got to find that within ourselves, because if we keep looking outward for it, we're not going to find anything. We're finding nothing if we keep doing that. We just got to keep going. We got to keep trying, and we have to find our ways through. And, some people out there are going to use you. Some people out there are not going to see you for who you are and the value that you hold. And, some people are going to exploit you for things that they may want. And then you might see a sudden change in their behavior. There are people in my life where I've witnessed that multiple times, and we need to do our best to stay away from those people, and we need to do our best to find the people that are going to, help us through the things in life that we are struggling with. And there's a really big thing with some people struggle to even handle any criticism because they're afraid of change, and they may not know how to change if they need to. And that can also cause more struggle because you may feel a little bit crushed under the weight of that. Like some influences in your life, you really care about certain people, and sometimes those people are like, this person's wrong if they criticize me for X, Y, and Z, when really sometimes the person doing the criticism that sounds like an a-hole is the person that's just trying to help, and, there's obviously a line to be drawn somewhere. There's kind of like the idea of like, you can't be hateful. You can't tear people down. You can't be demeaning. What you should do is you should be constructive in your criticisms towards people if you have any. And, and I think that's really a good thing, because I have some people in my life who have done that for me, especially because back in the day, like back when I was in like middle school, back when I was in like high school, even I was a real jerk at times. Like I was not the greatest of people. And I'm sure many of us could say that too, because you're in high school. You're going to be a dummy to an extent. But I had to learn through the criticism of others who at the time I thought were stupid. And from that, I grew and I learned. So, this video, I know that I've kind of rambled on and I've taken a lot of different routes with this video. But the whole point of this video is to really just talk to you, just meet you on your level, just kind of talk to my audience, at least what little of you guys are still watching. But I just thought it would be a cool idea to say, hey, why don't we just chat? And I'm just going to, let the thoughts run out. No editing, no nothing like that. So there's no structure to this. And there's probably many times in the video where I just ramble on about things, but that's just the point of this video. I'm trying to speak my mind and hope that someone out there, one of you guys, gets something out of this. I'm hoping that there is a way for us to really come to an understanding with each other, that we're all in this together. And a lot of us have this problem where we think that everyone else is doing better than us. We think, oh, this person has it all together. This person has this, that, and this, and I don't have that, X, Y, Z. But you may not realize that person may be dealing with something completely in secret that you know nothing about. Literally nothing about it. And I've noticed that in my life, there have been multiple times where I'm struggling, I'm dealing with something really hard, and I think, oh, this person has it all together. There's no way there's something bad like that going on. And then you may realize the next day something bad happens. It could be anything. Which opens your eyes up a bit to realize, like, hey, maybe we're not alone here. Now, look, guys, I know that it is extremely cliche to say this. It's very cliche. It's stupid to say this, but we really need to stick together through this, because now more than ever, it has really become really contingent on ourselves to rely on each other to make it through this hard time. And a lot of us may not have the connections we need. We may not have the relationships we need to feel secure in our ability to reach out for help, but some of us really do need help. So guys, please reach out to those you think are in need. Reach out to those you think are going through a hard time. We've got some difficulties going on. Let's pray for the best, and let's try to get through it the best we can. Stay safe. Take care of yourself. Don't burn out no matter what you're doing, whether it be content creation or your job or whatever it is. Do the things you need, take the steps that you need to take to not burn yourself out and to not hurt yourself in the long run. Do the things you need to take care of yourself. And I know that it may seem like things may never get better, and they may not for a while, you know? But the question is, what are you going to do with what you have right now? What are you going to do with that? This is all stuff that I need to talk to myself about as well, because I don't know. As far as myself, I don't fully know. And if you guys have any ideas, let me know in the comment section below. I've been dealing with some stuff, and it's been hard. I don't fully know what I'm going to do. I don't know what direction I'm going to take this. But there is a little bit of hope within me that things can get better if I keep trying. And again, that sounds so cliche, and so many people are going to be like, oh, why'd you say that? That's not even that substantive. I really feel it inside. Things could get better. Will they? Who knows? But again, what are you going to do with what you have? Are you going to live your life just wasted away wishing you had things that you don't? Or are you going to do what you can with what you have? I want you guys to think about this. And I also just want you guys to know that if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Let me know in the comment section how you're doing. You guys have a good day. See you later. Bye.